Welcome to the show. My name is Victoria Turner, and this is Powerful People of San Diego. We have a fabulous young woman in the show with us today. Her name is Babs Fry, and she does pet recovery. She helps people in San Diego find their pets if they happen to get out, or even better, prevent them from getting out. Welcome to the show, Pat.
Thank you.
And who is this beautiful young lady you brought with you?
This is Gracie.
Hi, Gracie.
Hi, baby.
Yeah, Gracie's just back from the vet, huh?
Correct, yes.
So bless her heart for coming on with us. Thank you, Gracie. So let's talk about pet recovery. What is it that you do? Well, actually, most of the time you're in real estate, but as your avocation, you do pet recovery. Let's talk about that.
Basically, what I do is just serve as a go-to point for people who have lost their pets. Most people, when they lose a pet, they don't know where to begin. You know, the thing that we as human beings initially do is panic. Sure. And then we race out looking for our dog, close things up, and when that doesn't work, put out flyers, and we miss a lot of really key points along the way. So I try to educate the public about what they need to do, the steps they should take, the mistakes they should avoid, and then I'll often get personally involved if needed.
You've helped recover hundreds, if not thousands, of dogs throughout San Diego County. That must take a lot of time.
It does, and it's kind of gotten worldwide. I actually now take phone calls from anywhere. So.
Well, that's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
you can't run around everywhere the way you
No,
do in
I
San Diego
don't.
County.
I don't.
So what's the very first thing that, my dog has just gotten out, oh my God, what am I going to do? What is the first thing I should do?
Stay home.
That doesn't make any sense. Why do you say stay home?
It is so counterintuitive, but typically what I'll have to do is explain to people the common sense behind it, because it doesn't. I mean, our human instinct is if we don't go find our dog, we won't find our dog. But what we do is we confuse our dog when we do that, and if it's fearful, we may even chase it off because we're spreading scent. And your dog who may have if it's a wanderer or a dog who just got out, it may just be a matter of confusing them by spreading scent. But typically once they're out for a period of time, they revert to instinct, which is fly or die, fight or flight. And so you become a hunter. You know, you go out looking, and you as a human being put off all of your energy, and your dog, of course, who hears you coming, screaming its name.
Yes.
Here's your fear, your anxiety, and everything else. And in its mind, they're trying to kill you too. And it's just going to keep running.
So it feels it's become prey.
Absolutely. It's instinct.
And it's instinct to run. And what about other people coming near the dog? Same thing?
It just depends on the dog. Some dogs are super friendly. And in fact, I usually tell owners who struggle with not going to look for their dog, if the dog was findable, you would have found it. If it's findable, somebody else found it. In which case it did approach somebody who saw it and stopped and pulled over, has it safe. If it's not findable, it's operating in fear, which means it's really just running, and you need to be able to do what's necessary to help it rely on its instinct, which is to come back.
So now I'm at home, my dog's run out. What's the first thing I should do? Leave the front door open.
Absolutely. That door needs to be open. A dog needs to have free immediate access to the property.
And the back door, the gate?
You know, that is situational. My preference is front door. But if they happen to jump out the back fence and they're in a canyon and coming back that way, in some cases you have to work with what your comfort levels are. Some places people don't want to leave their front door open, but they're comfortable with a gate and then subsequently a back door. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of, well, they have a doggy door, because if they come running back, they're not looking to dart and evaluate. They really need free access to what they feel is safe.
So the front door is the best.
Absolutely.
Most of the time. And then talk about what food things we should be putting at the front door to help that.
Rotisserie chicken.
Why rotisserie chicken?
You know, and it's not boiled chicken and it's not chicken nuggets. It's about the smell. It has a very strong, intense smell. I have been in places where I've gone to set my traps and I turn around and 2 or 3 dogs are there, and I'm like, oh,
hello.
I mean, it really is effective. The other variable, it's a very high value food, but obviously you don't go throw the whole chicken out there.
No.
Typically, I'll tell people to put chunks of the meat and then put some of that skin in a Ziploc bag. Every 3 to 4 hours, nuke a little piece of it and put it on top, and it keeps that smell really nice and fresh.
Well, yeah, and science tells you that when that scent warms up, it spreads farther, and that's what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Especially if there's a breeze that goes by your front door.
And you want to use the wind to your benefit, for sure. Scent items. I'll tell people also, I tell people to put dirty laundry out, and I tend to really recommend undergarments.
Because
Socks,
that's where your
shoes,
scent
underwear.
Because when a dog goes to you, the first thing it does is go for your crotch.
I mean, but it's true, right? You know, when I tell people, it's not that the dog has a fetish with underwear. They're intimate items. That's why they go for shoes. They're close to the skin and they smell like they're people. I mean, obviously, depending on where it is, like if the dog ran away. In fact, today I talked to somebody, the dog had run away from their parents' house. You know, I'm not going to tell them they have to leave their underwear out front of mom and dad's place, but socks for sure. And elevation is good. You were spot on with the wind. If you can hang it like on a light or on a bush or a tree that's right by that front door, it allows the wind to come through and carry it out.
Or even out in front by the sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. If you do that, I tend to do twice.
Sure.
Because a lot of times a fearful dog will do a flyby, and you want to draw them into the property so that they then have a venue for getting to that's safe. But the general location is what's important.
Okay, and so now my dog's gotten out. I'm not chasing it. I've put the rotisserie chicken on the front porch, and I've kept the front door open. I have somebody inside to shut the door if he gets inside. I've got my underwear all over the front. What's the next step?
PR, PR, PR. I tell people, get it all over social media, but what people have to remember is they become intently aware of social media venues they didn't even know existed.
Like what?
You've got Facebook. Nextdoor is crucial. It's one of the #1 places dogs are talked about, actually.
Yes.
Paw Boost, which is a very specific app for lost and found pets.
Okay.
Craigslist. Lost and found in the pet section. And then Finding Rover, and there are others. The reason that's crucial is because no matter who finds or sees your dog, you want to make sure, no matter where they go to see if somebody has posted, that they find it.
That they find it.
Because they don't know all of those other places.
Sure.
I will tell you, posters.
Posters. Let's talk about posters.
This is kind of my second go-to. I'm known for my rotisserie chicken and my posters. I can always tell when I've been working with somebody because somebody would be like, Babs, call Babs. And I'm like, nope, we've talked. That's my poster. The reason I advocate for posters is flyers is what everybody goes to immediately.
Right, 8.5 by 11, black and white. You can't see the picture.
No, I mean, you drive by and they're gone.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that they seem cumbersome to most people because you think you've got to print out 200 of them. They're great for passing out when you're canvassing and talking to
for
people.
For the small 8.5 by 11s, but.
Yep, but you do this. I typically say print an 8.5 by 11 picture of the dog out.
And tape it to make sure that the wet dew doesn't.
Yep, sleeve protectors, upside down. Now this one's not upside down because it was summertime, but sheet protectors are super good for rain.
We get these from Office
Depot, Staples,
Walmart.
Yep, any of those places.
Okay, and what size are these posters?
Typically, once they're finished, anywhere from like 2 feet wide by 3 foot tall. But you can go,
see them as they drive by.
Yep, you can go get the massive sheets though and cut them in half.
Okay.
Big black Sharpie. What you put up here is just relevant to the dog. Unless your dog is 100% goes to anybody and everybody under any circumstances, I tend to recommend do not approach. I've actually amended these a bit. Also on the bottom, I'll say will run. People automatically assume that the dog is aggressive or something bad might happen. So you've kind of clarified for those people that might be fearful. And then call. And then I sometimes also say 24/7.
Sure, if it's my dog, I want somebody calling 24/7.
Because if you don't, what will happen is the Good Samaritan will call you at 9 a.m. and say, I saw your dog at 2 a.m., but I thought it was too late to call. And time is of the essence when you're doing this.
Sure.
The benefit to the posters too, though, is rather than hitting like every corner, I tell people pan 2 to 5 miles out. Put the posters up like in very key intersections and use a map to orient yourself as far as where you should put them. And then everybody and anybody should be able to see it.
For miles and miles, I can see that.
Yeah.
So, and what's the story about this dog?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. This little guy actually is a dog that is currently one of our local shelters.
Oh.
That is has presented some challenges, and I was asked to come in to work with so that we could get him properly networked to somebody that's really familiar and experienced with the breed.
Yes.
He's only 10 months old.
Baby.
He is a baby. And, just people at this point have failed him. And so I've gone in to kind of work with some of his fear issues and work with some of the other challenges that he's got in being the dog he needs to be and finding the right home for him.
Now, as we're a small rescue, and we always tell people that when you get a brand new dog, 30 days is the big window that you're most likely to lose that dog. And that's that 30 days, you have to be hyper vigilant.
Yes.
It can go longer than that. But on average, I tell people that, you have to double check the front door every single time, double check the gates every single time. You have to assume that dog's trying to get out for 30 days to go back where it came from.
Yep.
Let's talk more about that.
Well, I mean, for me, it's more than back where it came from. Rescue has been revolutionized by social media. And 10 years ago, 75% of the dogs getting adopted nowadays would have been euthanized.
Yeah.
That dog comes to your house with at least one, if not several suitcases. It takes 30 days to start unpacking that baggage. And until you do that, you really don't know who you have. You don't know what the fears are. You don't know what their instinct is. You don't know what's comfortable and what's not. You also can't assume that what is okay here is not okay in a strange setting. You nailed it. I tell people when they first get home, to be honest, the first thing you should do with that dog is take it home. Everybody wants to take it to the store, take it to Granny, show it off.
No.
at least a week. And until that dog is solidly bonded to you and comfortable in its setting, you do not take that dog anywhere out in public. Barriers are huge. I personally am a huge advocate for crate training. That doesn't mean the dog spends its life in the crate, but it's great for potty training. It's great for getting to know your dog while you're gone. But more specifically, a lot of these dogs, as you've already referenced, they come into a strange setting and they're just looking to flight because they don't understand.
Yes.
And when you come home with your hands full of groceries and you open the door, they're gone.
They're gone. They're gone.
If they're behind a barrier,
and it's not because they don't love you.
absolutely. It's just instinct. It's
Right.
100% instinct. And that can kick in too in a different setting. You know, when you have a dog and you take it to a different place, you have to remember who it is who it is with your company and your location. You go on vacation a year from now and place it with a pet sitter.
They don't know this
The other
person.
most common call I get is they revert, not because you haven't done a good job or because they haven't progressed. It's their instincts. So barriers are huge. The other huge things that I recommend for people is absolutely no unsupervised time outside.
Ever.
And not off leash in the beginning.
No.
That's super important. And I recommend a long line, even as you're transitioning, because if that dog decides to get, maybe it has a high prey drive or a loud noise. You've got friends that have Harleys.
Sure.
You've got something you can grab a hold of. That's really important before you venture into trusting them, even in an enclosed fenced backyard.
And it's not that the dog doesn't like you.
No.
It's an instinct to go out and search for things and go to freedom,
Absolutely.
et cetera. And then once they're gone, they're gone. So it's better to be conservative, at least for 30. You can do anything for 30 days.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
And you don't find that the dog hates you for it either. And
No.
I hear that a lot. Well, he won't like it. That's not the case.
No. And one of the things I talk to people a lot about a lot, which in my case, a lot of times it's after they've had a bad experience, so they're more receptive. But the reality is the larger majority of what we perceive they enjoy and what they need is all about us.
It's all about
The
us.
dog does not have to be off leash to have a good time.
Right.
There are safety measures you can implement. Beyond the barriers, I also, transporting is the other number one reason I get phone calls.
Yes.
I know we all want the dog to interact with us while we're in the car, and that's okay if that's what you're going to do, but it should be leashed, and it absolutely needs to be tethered in. What I recommend to people, you don't have to, you can go endorse the fancy gadgets if you want. They sell the little seatbelt clips with a clip. But I personally say, hey, you just take your
Regular leash.
you run your seatbelt through it, you buckle it in, and that dog's going nowhere.
That's right.
Because you just don't know. You open the car and a Harley backfires,
Somebody scares the dog. Or the window
absolutely.
was open. I had a little terrier. The window was open this much, and he was more than halfway. I didn't even know the dog could fit through the window, and he was more than halfway out before I could grab him.
Well, and that's another thing. Don't assume anything.
Well,
I
you assume they're
mentored.
gonna get out.
I have caught many people who it never dawned on them that because everybody thinks, oh, all dogs love car rides and they won't jump out the window. It happens.
Right. Or if there's another car driving by with another dog with its head out the window, there goes your dog.
Yep.
If you drive by McDonald's, you drive by KFC, there goes your dog.
Yep.
So you can't ever leave that window open.
No, it's huge.
Yeah.
The other thing that some people learn the hard way is be mindful. Treat your dog like a kid. Safety lock.
Yep.
Your puppy gets up, wants to look all outside. What's going on?
Right.
It steps on that power window button, and you're in trouble.
That's right. You leave
yeah.
leave the dog in the car for 2 minutes with the car's running and the air conditioning's on.
Driving down the road.
Dog locks you out of the car.
Oh, yes. I've actually had that happen. I now have spare keys.
Yes, yeah. With you.
But absolutely, 100%. And lastly, and this is, it's a controversial topic with a lot of people, but I will tell you, as the person that's on the tail end of the I lost my dog, a household collar is meant for tags and tags only. A harness, big or small, I don't care if it's a 5-pound Chihuahua, they will come off. They give the illusion of security because there's so much material to them, and there's a lot of them out there that would promote themselves as being escape-free. Every dog, when it starts to throw its limbs about in a panic, will come out of a harness. There are a couple things that you can use that, at least for me, I consider safe. My personal go-to is a slip lead, because I know how to use it, but more specifically, it's a piece in one. It's basically a leash, and it's a collar. You don't have to figure out how do you put a choke chain together and all that other stuff. Does it fit right? It literally is,
Slips open.
it goes over the head. What's most important, because you'll see these at the vets and from when you go to the shelters, that what they give you is not
the
a
right
good, reliable slip lead. It needs a tab. Because then what it does is it goes on and you can roll it down so that it, actually, Gracie has one on. See how this is like nice and loose and I can rotate it around?
Yes.
But If she were to put her head down, it can't get so big it would come off.
It locks to a
But if-
specific place.
Yes, but if she panics or backs off, it's going to noose her. She cannot get out of that. So that's my personal go-to.
Yes.
The other thing, though, that is very common, which also is very acceptable, but very important that it be used properly, is what we call a martingale collar.
Yes. Let's talk.
And this is basically a collar with a, for lack of a better word, a choke mechanism on it.
Let me spell martingale because not
Yes,
everybody knows.
please.
Martingale.
Yes.
Martin, like the man, or
Yep.
my favorite Martin.
Yep.
Gale, Gale, like in windstorm. So it's a martingale collar. Okay, so
Yep.
let's talk more about it.
This one is my preferred for two reasons. It's got a clip.
Clip pops open.
You can fit it. It's easy to go on. The reason I like that is because martingale's the way most. You're so silly. What are you doing?
She's looking for that treat.
She's looking for that treat.
Looking more?
Here, you can have it. It's right there. The more specific part is a lot of them don't have clips, and so they fit it so that they can get it on the neck. A martingale should never be left on. I can't tell you how many people use this and even put their household tag on it. It is a choke hazard if it's fit properly. But what happens without the clip is that a lot of people, they put it on and it's a hassle to get on and off.
So they leave it.
They leave it on.
And it's only for walking.
Yes, absolutely. The most important part is if it's not fitted properly, it's no better than a household collar. When you pull on this, these two rings should never touch if it's properly fitted. Because when that dog pulls, it needs to choke it for it not to come off.
Right.
So if this comes like this, where do you think that's going?
Oh dear.
Right over the head.
Right over the head.
So that's super important. And sometimes they're cloth. Cloth is acceptable as well. But basically, it's got a stop gap. And these two rings should never touch is how you can make sure that it fits properly. Some people are uncomfortable with these sort of tools. My suggestion is have them on as a backup, then use two leashes. You know, if you really prefer a harness, then you can use these. I get a lot of pushback sometimes because they're like, well, my dog pulls. Well, then it needs leash training, not a harness. My opinion is you have absolutely zero control of your dog when you need to, when you have a dog on a harness. Because when it's going face forward into something else, out of defense, even if it's not offense, you don't have that control.
Right.
But I'm not here to tell people what they should and shouldn't do. It's about safety.
It's about safety.
And, you know, if you want to use a harness, I'm totally down with that. A lot of people freak out about the littles, you know, the Chihuahuas and the little dogs.
Yeah.
I have walked a 5-pound Chihuahua in a choke chain. It
Without
does
any
just
problem.
fine,
Yeah.
you know, because I know what I'm doing and I know the dog was okay.
Okay.
And it wasn't used as a training tool. It was used as a safety mechanism for that particular dog. You know, one of the reasons sometimes I do opt for a choke chain and a metal leash is because in what I do, I don't know that every dog is leash trained. And I will tell you, I had heard, and I would not have believed if I hadn't seen it. Your dog can turn around and bite through this leash in one snap.
Yes.
And so if you have a dog who's in fear, or more specifically, not leash trained, it'll be gone.
Just like that. Just like that.
Yes.
That's true. Let's talk about the other items here.
Okay, where are you going, Gracie?
Do we want to talk about Gracie's story first?
What are you doing? We can certainly talk about Gracie's
Let's
story
talk
if you
about
want.
Gracie's story. This is a huge
Come here.
success story, and
Oh, yeah.
incidentally, Gracie is up for adoption.
She is up for adoption, yes.
She is, and she's such a beautiful,
okay.
friendly girl. Hi,
Gracie
Bubba.
pulled something, so that's why she's a little owie right now.
How much time is left?
You know, Gracie actually is a good story, not just because of what I do, but this actually was not an owned pet. This is one of those cases where I get to be helpful in the community. I have forged a really good relationship with our shelter system. In fact, the larger majority of them have my business cards and give them out to everyone when they come in looking for their lost pets. So
Yes.
that's really cool. I'm really excited about that. But Gracie is a good example of how the community really is key. This is not about me. This little girl had been racing around the SDSU and La Mesa area for 3 weeks. Had been You're okay. Well, just let her sit down first. Her leg's really hurting her. It's all right. There you go. Good girl. All right. She's gonna get her in a bush. You're gonna get a bush? Okay. It's all right. We'll get you taken care of when we get home. Unfortunately, this is sometimes what can happen when they spend a lot of time on the streets. Their body breaks down, and she started limping, and so we don't think there's a tear or anything else.
Let's start in the beginning.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
they started getting phone calls. The shelter got phone calls.
Well, yes. So basically, what happened with this particular dog is she had been on the street. She and another dog had been on the streets for 3 weeks. Multiple authorities had been out and made attempts to catch them, but what people don't understand is that even humane law enforcement, animal control. You can't catch a dog that's running. You can't. Neither can they.
No.
And
Plus
so
which they have only so much time, only so many personnel. They can only stand out there waiting for so long. So even if they see a dog for 10 seconds, they can't wait 12 hours to catch it.
And you nailed it. And that's what I try to explain to people. I mean, Gracie is here only because people saw her, people posted, people reached out to me.
Multiple people.
Had multiple people, and I had an incredible network of about 10 ladies who stepped up and said, and they admittedly had been doing it all wrong. And it was an incredible experience. They were following her, cornering her, chasing her, trying to get her safe, well-meaning. They didn't know any different.
Right.
But as soon as we connected...
Wait. But what they were doing is hitting all of her fear, her
Absolutely.
basic instincts. They were doing everything wrong to start those basic instincts to run away.
Yep.
What should they have done?
You stop. You don't follow a loose dog in a car. You don't try to corner it. You don't cut it off from where it's trying to go. Her, for example, multiple times, they kept trying to cut her off from the park because they didn't want her to get where they couldn't find her, but that was her safe place, and it forced her to move. You stop, you observe, make notes, and report. Because if you report, somebody is going to put you in touch with me, or we will track down an owner if there is one. It's amazing. We have an amazing community in San Diego County of lost and found people that kind of connect the dots. The next step, obviously, is to participate in not creating the problem. We had to do some education to get people to leave her alone, and all of these ladies were very instrumental, not just in changing what they were doing, but going on a massive PR campaign. They all got on Nextdoor for their various areas. They got on Facebook pages and so forth. And we basically posted pictures and said, hey, everyone is aware of this dog. Please, if you see her, report it. Please get the information that we need, which is basically, where did you see the dog? What time? What side of the street? Where did she duck into? So on and so forth. Because that's where my skills come in. I can figure out what that dog's pattern is. If she comes somewhere more than once or twice, we set a trap there.
How long was she on the street?
She was being tracked by people in the community for 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
We have no idea how long before that.
At least 3 weeks.
At least 3 weeks.
And then how long after what was the first thing you did? Besides you accumulated all this information, you analyzed the pattern, and then what did you do?
I had them embark on their mass PR campaign. In fact, they went out and put posters everywhere.
Wow.
And every time we got a sighting, we modified our posters. These girls traveled some pretty significant distance and took a couple jaunts on the freeway.
Wow.
So
they're lucky they lived at all.
The other one unfortunately didn't. She went all the way from Spring Street on 8 to the 163.
Holy cow. A couple of miles.
She unfortunately didn't make it.
Poor baby.
But she did.
So what did you do to catch her finally?
I ended up having to set a trap. We'd gotten the cooperation of the community. We had tracked her. She was a nightmare. She got on the freeway. We'd gotten several solid places where we thought we had her somewhat confined, where we could set a trap and leave her be and she could settle. And she would
every time.
Every time. Ironically, she ended up jumping into the backyard of somebody who posted, I've got this strange dog in my yard. I can't get it. And I can't. And in fact, we even got the cooperation. La Mesa PD had been involved in this particular dog.
Wow.
And we had worked with them because the first time, not knowing any different, they had gone and actually spooked her off. And we were coming to set a trap. And so in fact, La Mesa PD sometimes actually now will contact me to get some of the dogs that are loose in the area. So
bless your heart.
It's been really good. But we went and we set a trap, made a point not to disturb the area. That's what people really don't understand is we want to see and we want to check if she's still there, and that's all predatory in dogs world. So I just gave the lady very specific instructions about what to do, how to keep the area somewhat confined. When I got there, I very quietly kind of evaluated what we were working with. They were kind enough to help me bring the trap in.
And then you got her.
It was
a long time.
It was pretty quick.
It was pretty quick. After you did the right thing.
I literally doused the chicken broth, and she came running around the corner, and I'm like, whoop, and so we kind of had to duck for cover, and
thank you. Well,
she was safe.
You have been watching Powerful People of San Diego. I'm here with my wonderful guest, Babs Fry, who does dog recovery here in San Diego. We have about 2 minutes remaining. Can you talk really quickly about the nonprofit that you've just started? Because you've been doing all of this out of your own pocket. You need to be paid for this. And Gracie needs a home. So talk to me really quick about your nonprofit.
Sure.
And then we will have you summarize what we've talked about.
Sounds good. So we are now officially A Way Home for Animals Incorporated. Don't need to be paid for what we do, but we do need to support the ventures like we do Gracie. And then we are still working on our 501c3, but we are available pretty much 24/7 to help anybody that needs it.
That's great. And if I was the goddess of giving you anything that you want for your nonprofit, what would you like?
I desperately need a van.
A van would be helpful. Okay, to help
Right
you drive.
now, well, the animals are all transported in the back of my pickup right now. So in inclement weather, we've got traps that are exposed. Or if I'm doing multiple things, it's hard to juggle traps and dogs and crates and other things. So.
And what would you like to tell the general public about what you do and what they can do to help prevent their dogs from getting out, and what they should do after, really quickly?
Sure. Just make sure that you educate yourself on what you're getting. Take your time with your dog. Barriers, keep them secure. Don't make any assumptions. And if you see a loose dog, stop, take a picture, and report it. That's
And report
the most
it
important
to
thing.
whom?
Get on Facebook, Craigslist. My phone number is 619-249-2221. You can call or text me 24/7, and I'm here to help.
Great. Make a poster, tell your friends, and don't chase the damn dog.
No, please don't chase the dog.
Please don't chase
And
the
don't
dog.
follow it in your car. You're not being helpful. You're not keeping it from getting hit.
The dog knows that you're following
100%.
it, even in a car.
Yep.
Even in a car. So your dog's smarter than you think.
Yep.
And be very careful when you get a new dog home.
Yes.
Yeah, 30 days. Be careful. Thanks for being with us here. Thanks for saying hello to Gracie. Hi, Gracie. If your name is George Burns, please call. We've got your dog. And thanks for being here with Powerful People of San Diego. Thanks very much. We'll talk to you again next time.
Hi, I'm Babs with Away Home for Animals and wanted to talk to you for a minute about Gracie. She is a dog that we rescued off the streets and had no owner come forward, and she is available for adoption. She's a 5 to 7 year old spayed female pit bull. She is great with dogs, great with people, would be okay with children. She has a great play energy, but is also very content to be a couch potato, as she can see. And she can be met by calling 619-249-2221.